Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. American doctors and Obamacare. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. What I'm about to tell you is simply stunning. A new survey published by the New England Journal of Medicine, a prestigious magazine, says that nearly half of primary care doctors in America could leave the medical profession if Obamacare is passed. According to the journal, 63% of physicians feel that health care reform is needed but should be done in a more gradual way. And an astounding 72% of doctors believe a public option, that is a government-run health insurance company, would have a negative impact on medical care in the USA. From the jump, Talking Points has been telling you about the unintended consequences of Obamacare. But if half the nation's doctors are considering getting out, that's by far the most frightening offshoot of health care reform. If Obamacare passes, there could be about 30 million more Americans seeking medical care from the establishment. Dick Morris says even if every doctor stays in place, the result would be health care rationing. But if doctors begin leaving the profession, well, you do the math. The question is why? Why are so many doctors queasy about Obamacare? There are essentially two reasons. First, loss of control. Most doctors value their freedom to make decisions when it comes to their parents. They don't want some pinhead in Washington telling them how to treat a person. Second, many doctors believe Obamacare will cut payments, especially in the Medicare area. And with the high cost of medical malpractice insurance and other expenses, many doctors say, hey, it's just not worth it. If the Democratic Party is concerned about an exodus of American doctors from the field, we haven't heard it. We haven't heard President Obama, Nancy Pelosi, or Harry Reid say anything about this. But I believe the study in the New England Journal of Medicine, because I've talked to enough doctors myself to know there's no great enthusiasm for Obamacare in the medical community, even here in liberal New York City. Once again, Talking Points would not vote for Obamacare, not because of ideology, but because of the huge expense which the country can't afford and the amazing array of unintended consequences that will kick in once the feds try to run the healthcare industry. The massive Obamacare plan is already out of control, and it hasn't even been passed yet. And that's a memo. Now, for the top story tonight, the latest behind-the-scenes information about the upcoming vote on Obamacare. Joining us from Washington, A.B. Stoddard, associate editor of The Hill newspaper, and Fox News chief political correspondent Kyle Kramer. All right, so Robert Gibbs, president's spokesman, says the vote will be held this week. Others say the vote's not going to be held till Easter. What do you think, Cameron? What's going to happen?
If they can't get a vote until Easter, then it may be that this is completely dead, and it may well be that there's so much controversy over what could transpire this week that it could be a negative for Democrats at the election polls of the midterms of 2010. Here's what's up, Bill. Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid, the leading Democratic lieutenants for President Obama's Obamacare on the Hill, have been unable to amass the necessary votes to get it out of Congress and back to the president's desk for a signature for the last year. They have said for months that they'd pretty much use any means necessary to pass it if it came down to that. Nancy Pelosi's been reiterating it this week, and now she says that they're going to use something called a deeming vote. In essence, there won't be a vote in the House on the Senate bill. What they'll do is they'll pass a rule for that reconciliation package of fixes. This sounds complicated, but it's not. And ultimately, by voting on the fixes to the Senate bill, they would say retroactively the House has agreed to the Senate bill, thus letting Democrats who object to it slide without casting an actual ballot for the Senate proposal.
I don't believe that's going to happen, Carl. The outcry in this country would be so enormous, the anger so intense, that would pretty much doom the Obama administration. A.B., do you agree with that?
I do think that you're beginning to get a sense with each passing critique of the kind of gimmicks that the Democrats are depending on. First, it was reconciliation. Now it's the demon pass. With each one, they're losing more and more steam.
Yeah, I mean,
and they're in some kind of political quicksand over this.
Just put yourself in the shoes of the president. Even House Majority
Leader Steny Hoyer today said, you know, the American people real Americans will not be able to distinguish the difference between the two. What is demon pass versus what is supporting a Senate bill?
Are you kidding me? With cable news and talk radio? Are you kidding?
I don't think people...
You can't. You put yourself in President Obama's shoes.
I think they're the same. I think that... Bill, I'm just saying, Bill, I think they're the same. I think if you deem it, you're supporting the bill.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If they don't do an up and down vote, President Obama's done. His whole term is done. Whether it passes or fails, it doesn't matter. If they try to sneak it around the back door by some kind of parliamentary procedure that nobody's ever heard of, Carl explained it fine. I don't care. I want an up or down bill, and I think 95% of Americans do as well. If they do this, that's the end of the Obama administration, Carl. It's over. It's over.
Well, but you might be right on that score, Bill, but the issue isn't so much whether or not they can or should. It's whether or not they have to, because they lack the votes to pass it otherwise.
I don't think the president is going to do it. I do not think Barack Obama is going to put his entire historical legacy on the line for this. Now, let's take, do you both agree, AB, you can start first, that right now, Tuesday, the 16th of March, 2:10, if the vote were held this evening, the Obamacare would go down, be defeated. Do you believe that, AB?
Absolutely. They do not have the votes tonight. If they had the votes, it would be on the floor right now. They don't even have the language, Bill. There's no score from the Congressional Budget Office. I spoke to a no vote today who, without a score from the Congressional Budget Office, cannot be budged into changing their vote. They are short the votes. Our count at thehill.com, you can look it up, is 212 to 219. They are short, and it doesn't. The language itself doesn't seem to be something that's going to sway people. But they don't have the language. They're supposed to post it online 72 hours in advance. If you do that tomorrow, you get to a Saturday vote. They are not ready to post it online. They're not ready to even unveil it.
Now, Carl, do you agree with that, number one? And number two, what happens if Nancy Pelosi arrives at Friday and then says, we'll lose? You know, does she put it off till next week and then the next week? Because as you both, I think, agree, the longer you put it off, the weaker it gets. So, Carl, let's start with number one. Do they have the votes? Now.
They do not have the votes. It's a coalition of no votes that they're facing. Pro-life Democrats who think that the Senate bill doesn't ban it.
Right. So they don't have them.
They don't have the votes.
Okay. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, they're due any time now to update the finances of this deal, right?
Well, except that they haven't necessarily gotten the complete legislative language in order to do their complete analysis. That's part of what AB was talking about.
All right, so that's not even assured that that's going to come at all.
Well, they want it to come at some point. If they get to Friday and Nancy Pelosi hasn't got the votes, the only other alternative would be to use this deem and pass process to essentially get around the fact that they don't have the votes. Carl, you're
smarter than I am. You're smarter than I am, Carl. Everybody knows that, all right? You can't tell me you're going to stand there and say that President Obama is going to. He's not. I can't. If that happens, I don't know. You know, I'll be so stunned if they try to backdoor this thing.
But let's be realistic, Bill. There have been very few presidents in the last 30 or so years who've run into problems facing their first midterm, whether that was a Republican or a Democrat, that hasn't thrown their party under the bus. The moderate Democrats in this country are freaking out.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Obama's not going to allow it to happen. He's going to say, no, you either vote it up or down. I'm not going to do the backdoor deal. I'm agreeing with you. He's not going to do it.
Well, then that leaves an awful lot on the shoulders of Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi for not delivering the votes.
Well, I mean, look, I think if it's between President Obama and his historical legacy and the other two, I think I know which one the president's going to pick. A.B. Koth, and I could be wrong on this. I absolutely could be wrong, and if I am, I'll admit it, reluctantly. Next on the rundown, the far left begins to attack Democrats who